Thanks for checking out this movie review video. So this is for the 2019 release VFW. This is a Fangoria produced film back from when Fangoria was under the old ownership, which may point to one of the problems I'm going to talk about with this specific film. But since it's 2019 release, I'm not really going to do spoilers. I will kind of talk about some technical things and thematic things that I did enjoy that I did not enjoy as well, because I didn't really like this film that much. There are definitely things I really liked about it, but there are definitely a bunch of things I really did not, and I'll obviously get into that. But no real spoilers. I will just give a quick synopsis, though, in a minute. This one's directed by Joe Begos. Now, if that name sounds familiar, it's because Joe's done Almost Human, which I have seen that film, The Mind's Eye, which I have not, but I heard good things about, and Bliss, which is on Shudder, and I enjoyed aspects of Bliss, but it's not my thing, although I really do see how people would love that film. It visually is really cool. And if you've seen Bliss and then you see this film, or vice versa, you can see Joe Begos' style. And it's a cool style. He has a great style. Camera movements are a great thing for him. His directing, cinematography, usually really good. Lighting, not so great. That's one of my biggest issues with this film, but I'll talk more about it in a little bit. It's written by Max Brallier, who wrote The Last Kids on Earth, and Matthew McArdle, who hasn't really done anything. It is alleged, this is a problem I was talking about that may point to the Fangoria issue. Fangoria is under new ownership right now, by the way, so things have been cleaned up from what I understand. It is alleged that Fred Williamson was sexually harassing a costume designer on set. So much so that that costume designer ended up quitting, and so much so that the production staff put into place a buddy system situation for all females when they were going to be around Fred Williamson. It's very unfortunate to hear that. Now, obviously, I can't say for sure that that 100% did happen, but if it did happen, that is awful. If it didn't happen, that sucks that that information is being thrown out there, but if it was happening, something more definitely should have been done, like he should have been kicked off. So that's not excusable. But once again, like I said, this may have been part of the issue with the old Fangoria, because there were a lot of allegations with the company that owned Fangoria about them allowing that type of stuff to go on. So yeah. Anyway, moving on to the actual film, the synopsis is called VFW. It's because veterans of foreign wars, it's a place that they go, they hang out, they talk, they drink. That's the premise to the setup for this film, is that place, but then what happens in a kind of quasi zombie film takeoff. I mean, it literally is like a zombie film, but dressed up to be something else. If you really step back from it, you watch it, it's a zombie film premise, but changed. So there are no zombies in it, but it's a zombie film premise if you step back and really look at it. Not a bad idea. It's actually a solid idea. It creates a lot of fun to the film for sure, but there are some other problems. So basically, from what you can surmise, it is people stuck in a VFW while there's an assault on it, and they're fighting for their lives. Plenty of gore, plenty of violence. If that's what you're looking for with some cool visuals, there you go. And the music's good too, I will say. There's a dystopian setup with text before things get started, which sets a very good stage, I will say, for the actual environment they're trying to create here. It has a real The Crow type of vibe to it, which I think is really funny because David Patrick Kelly is in this film. Now, if you're not familiar with that name, he played T-Bird in the film The Crow, the original The Crow, which I have a giant poster for over there. I love The Crow. I'm a big fan. Oh, also there's the McFarlane figure back here. Love The Crow. So it was cool to see David Patrick Kelly in that, and I think he was one of the best actors in there, by the way. He did an outstanding job with his performance. I wish he had an even larger role, but it is what it is. And to go back to the Fred Williamson allegations, if those were true, then if they were to have gotten rid of him, it wouldn't have mattered that much to the film, because he wasn't that great in it, to be honest. Everyone else was better than him, basically. His performance was okay, but for the most part, he was definitely replaceable. Or his character could have just not even been in it. There were a few characters where you could have just dropped them and it would have been kind of the same film. But anyway, I do like that they set up this dystopian situation and that it looked and felt like The Crow. I'm a fan. An early kill lets you know good gore is in your future, and that is one of the good things is the kills are appropriately violent, they are appropriately gory for what this film's going for, because obviously it's super light on story. There's not a whole lot story-wise going to this film. It's just, do you want to have fun and see violence and see gore? Yes. Okay. Well, then that's what's at play here. Well, and like I said, with good visuals and some music. It's easy to know who will be the good guys and who will be the bad guys very immediately. They move the story really, really quick, mainly just to get it out of the way, just to be like, okay, here's the premise, got it, let's move on to the stuff that we know everyone's basically here for. Makes sense. Opening credits take a long time, but they are sprinkled amongst some actual scenes of story. So even though it's really stretched out, I think they did a good job with that. That's a good way to get everyone's name out there in opening credits, but not slow the movie down at all. At all. So kudos to them for doing it that way. The film is overall dark, and there are some scenes where you can't see what's happening. Actually, some scenes, more than some, it's too much. Like, the lighting is a problem. And the way that they did the lighting here, it's lit by like colored lights, like bar lights, basically, which is fine. Like, I like that aesthetic, I like that look, and I like films that are overall dark. That's fine. And I do like the look of using like the colored lights to light it, but the issue is they're not bright enough. And there are many, many scenes where you can't see what's going on, or things are happening so quickly that your eyes can't adjust because of how low the lighting is. Like, you just can't see what's happening, and it gets confusing. And for a film like this, you need to have better lighting for that, because it's about the violence, it's about the gore, and by having the lighting so low, you're missing that. Like, people are missing how good some of this stuff does look, or would look, if it had better lighting to it. So that is my biggest problem with this film, is that the lighting is terrible. Inappropriately so. Someone should have handled that. The dialogue is pretty good in the beginning. It helps with relationships between the characters, establishing those relationships, keeping them going. The guys at the VFW, they do have a very chummy relationship that you definitely can see as being very realistic because of the dialogue, because of the acting. So I do like that aspect of it. It's well done. Begos has a great dark and dirty aesthetic. He really does. But once again, the problem is that lighting. And a lot of the scenes, like the quicker cut scenes, end up basically being pointless because you can't see. So why did you even shoot them? Like, this is what I'm saying. Get the proper amount of light going on. Just saying. Or maybe it's just a situation where I personally just have a problem with lighting like that. And maybe are people out there who are just like, oh, I felt like it wasn't a big deal for me. And, you know, I was totally fine watching it like that. In which case, cool. And you can tell me in the comments, and I hope that is the case. Because there are, like I'm saying, there are things I do enjoy about this film. It is fun. It is enjoyable. There is some pretty shaky camera work that shows up in this. If you've been watching my channel long enough, you know that's one of my big pet peeves, is unnecessarily shaky camera work. It's fine when there's like something kind of tense or like high action going on, which does happen in this. So when it's shaky during those moments, that's fine. I'm down with that. But there are times where nothing's really happening. People are just talking and they're stationary and it's shaky. That's not okay. Use a tripod for that. Like, definitely use tripods for those moments. But when it's like tense and action's happening, that's fine. Like, that adds to like the craziness of it. And when it's moving around in those instances in this film, it looks good. It definitely works. It looks pretty grainy at times. Now, this goes back to the problem of the lighting. Even if you're shooting in HD, which I'm sure they were shooting in HD for this, when you have those low lit scenes, it looks grainy. The HD doesn't work. It's not HD if there isn't enough lighting. It looks like crap. And it's not all the scenes, but there are certain scenes where you're looking at it and you're like, this looks like garbage. It doesn't look like HD. That's because the lighting was an issue. They needed more lighting to bring the definition through so that HD could do its job. They kept HD from doing its job at many points during this, and that sucks. The main bad guy is horrible. Not the creation of the character. The character's written just fine. He's a very basic character. The acting's bad. It's too over the top. I don't know if that was a intentional choice, that he was supposed to be kind of like ridiculous and over the top, but his line delivery's not good. His just voice acting, it's not good. Like it's not good, and it takes you out of the film. Honestly, you're just kind of like, okay, let's just have this guy maybe not speak at all, and let's just get him killed as fast as possible. Just saying. While the music is good, it does become a bit over the top at times. That's another thing that I harp on my channel in general is I don't like it when you're being beat over the head with music. Like it feels like as an audience member, the filmmaker's screaming at me and trying to tell me which way to feel about a scene or what I'm supposed to experience. Like let the visuals and the music to a lesser degree and the acting do that. Like, let us get that feeling. Let us, you can tell us how to experience it that way. But when you're just slamming someone with like super loud music, it gets annoying. And it feels like a crutch at times that people go to be like, let's up the energy, let's up the tension, let's up the scares, just with like super loud music. It's cheap, and I don't like that. But once again, you may not feel that way, and that's fine. You can let me know in the comments. I hope it doesn't bother you, because it's something that happens a decent amount in film. Although I will say, overall, horror has been moving more towards really restrained use of scores, and I really dig that. That's been great. As horror does, this one takes a societal ill and reflects it back in a hyperbolic horror story. This time it has to do with the opioid crisis. They actually laid that out like first thing in the film. So it's just another one of those moments. Over the decades, horror has done that. It is held a mirror up to society and said, these are the ills right now. And we're going to tell you the story about the ills in society at the moment. Obviously, like I said, they're going to be hyperbolic. They're going to be really over the top because it's a horror film, but it helps people deal with that stuff to a degree. It helps as a time capsule so that people in the future can look back and be like, oh, yeah, that's right. The opioid crisis was a real big problem. And it does it in an interesting way story-wise here, even though it is, a very simplistic story. So I like that that was kind of the point of it. Unfortunately, it is light on that story, though. It is just kind of violence and gore. But like I said, people may just be looking for just a relaxed, fun time of violence and gore. And that's fine. There are films for all different types. So, out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I'm between 2.5 and 3 on this. I feel like I gotta go 2.5, though. If the lighting was better, I would definitely go 3. But because the lighting is such a big problem that causes other problems, like the HD issue, I gotta go 2.5 on this film. But like I always say, I would love to hear differing opinions. Go ahead and put down in the comments, how do you feel about this film? Do you feel different, the same, in between? It's fine. We can talk about it. Maybe there's stuff I totally missed about this film, and I might feel differently after having a conversation. I'm open to that, for sure. But do me a quick favor. Oh, also, real quick, you can do spoilers in the comments. Go ahead. We can get spoilery in the comments. Do me a favor and hit subscribe if you haven't already. If you have, thank you very much. If you haven't, that's your way to repay me. You don't pay me or anything. I guess you pay me with your time watching the videos, and I appreciate that. But subscribing is quick, painless, costs you no money, and it motivates me. It legitimately motivates me. So I would really appreciate that if you feel like paying me back for what I'm doing. Just subscribe. That's about it. Well, and watch the videos. But regardless, I thank you for taking your time to watch this. And until next time, keep it brutal.